Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Spilled water. Spilled water. Precious paper. Precious paper. Greetings and welcome. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, licensed presenters, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. Five things today. Too many. Briefly, get paid up front. I'm working on that email to my group. I collected a bunch of the graphics for the different means of payment that go on the back of the sheet that says, I offer a presentation for this much time and this much money. Paid up front. I'm starting to like paid up front instead of paid in advance. It's too harsh and too much thinking. Paid up front, I think, says it simpler and clearer. On the back of that would be all the ways that you can accept payment for this paid up front. Here's methods of payment. And being a presenter, and what I'm suggesting and urging you to invest yourself in, is that when you make a presentation, it's paid up front. And then once you get paid, you go beyond what's on the front page, which is explaining that CT is about biomechanics, and MMP is a point of view of Pilates. Right? That's another layer. The subject matter of those two groups of letters. And if somebody's still interested, you can, what the letters stand for is Core New Tension and Michael Miller Pilates. Just one point of view of Pilates and a very special point of view of biodynamics. Number 2. I hear another definition of Pilates is being promoted, and I think I'm told, and what I've said, and I think that's great. I think that's great. That's really good news, because any attempt at a definition of Pilates is great, because it sheds light on whatever that person thinks Pilates is. And where that definition comes from. And what that definition is based upon. What I encourage you to see is that by reaching out into a world that previously was unthinkable, definitions are being brought forth at least another one. My hope is that you so clearly have comprehension of the MMP point of view that it will do you well in terms of evaluating whatever else is out there. The more definitions, the better, rather than just relying on the limitations of folklore to determine the subject of the matter. No explanation. So, entering the realm of rationality and explanation, see? Great. That's great. Because it takes it out of the realm of only the culture of the word of mouth and into a realm of explanation. Understanding something beyond whatever it is that's in the folklore, especially when the folklore has no explanation of its own unless one is coming to the surface. And that will be great to see what it's based on, because by stepping into an explanation, I see manifestation of my prediction that an explanation of Pilates, whatever that becomes, will become obvious to everyone, and the whole aristocratic structure will, for the most part, stay the same on the presumption of authority having to yield to the fact of the essence within it. Which is my big concern, is that Pilates would forever remain in the tyrannical chains of folklore and never be seen through the point of view of an explanation, especially mine, because I like mine a lot. And you can consult Occam's Razor about the MMPOV and the future to come. So, number 3, presumed superior. There are a couple attitudes you can have towards all kinds of attitudes you can have towards Pilates and defining it. And Joe's book, 1945, Freeman and Ison's book, heavily influenced by Romano, 1980, and then either a look backwards into Relics in the Attic, the Joseph Pilates Archive Collection, same year, the year 2000, I published an attempt at explaining Pilates based on what Joe says, Joe's book. There's two ways of, one of the ways you look at Pilates is as that it will always be a mystery. And in some ways I agree with that, and in other ways I don't. What matters to me is that you know the POV of MMP says that this book is the Holy Grail. So that it's in this book that you find the Holy Grail of what Pilates is all about. That's MMP POV. it's very seductive and human to play into and want to be part of a mystery or a culture or a tradition that is word of mouth, and how much that plays into who you are and how you participate and what comes of that. In knowing about the MMP POV, that there is an essence to Pilates, and that it can be explained by what's in Joe's book. And the definition of MMP is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. What other definition you run into, and all the other ones you run into, will further refine your own sense of defining the word for yourself. And over time, the clarity of seeking a defining essence within the method is the theory of MMP. And based on the theory and the three things from Joe's book, that's what I'm back to. The foundation I'm informing you of is what it says in Joe's book, the three things, and from that, a definition of core new tension and a definition of MMP. And MMP is Michael Miller Pilates, and that's just one point of view out of yours, mine, and everybody else's. But that point of view takes a point of view seeking an ideal within what's already there, and ends up finding an experience. At least with the MMP point of view, Pilates is an experience. And after that, you let Joe take over. Contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And that is an experience. It's very tough to accomplish, and it's fleeting if it ever shows up. But in pursuit of that complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit, your aspiration is to perform the mat. Either literally the mat, the original poem, or some ideal abstraction of that, which comes out in the MMP definition. Uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. So now here's a pitch high and outside, or maybe low and inside, I don't know. The title is this: you have to ride the wave in the direction it's going. And all this talk for me about the Pilates tsunami of passion and money behind it, and pressure and competition and just self-confidence in who you are and how you think of yourself when you think of yourself teaching Pilates or pursuing it, doing it. To me, this wave has to be headed toward, so where on the wave? When I tried to run away from love and Pilates, I ended up trying to surf in Costa Rica. And after way too long of fumbling in my own efforts, I realized that where the waves actually crested or broke, right? instead of just staying a solid mass, but there was a little bit of swirl or crest. That was the highest part of wherever you were going to catch a wave, which is where all the natives were, which is where I put 2 and 2 together. Locals. People that knew better than I did. And so the wave on Pilates, everybody's on this humongous wave with all that passion and thrill and embrace and expansion. If you recognize that that wave is being drawn by what it is in and of itself, that way, if you surf this wave at will, by knowing why and what you aim for and how to hit it and where the mystery comes in the observing, because in the observing, state-of-the-art science 2019 is that observing has characteristics of non-locality and superluminality. Fancy words. That you're connected to the universe faster than light. Parts of you anyway. If there is a you in the first place. But of those properties. So for me, in terms of the biology and the physics, the mystery is in when the amygdala and the hippocampus actually connect with the prefrontal cortex so that they're coordinating with one another. In my sensation, and maybe yours, there's a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing. And that's the experience you pursue in the performance of the method, of the movement. And if the movement isn't the original choreography, it resonates with it or it doesn't. Because right there, within Joe's book, the third thing is the sequence, and Pilates wouldn't be what it is without the sequence. And yet, the world, human nature, prone to oversimplification and immediate utilization of a thing toward a thing, uses words like exercises like words, and then applies a word to an issue. Something causing pain. Or something wanting more out of whatever, but an issue, not the whole thing. Not an ideal, not a language. Just exercises. Pilates is very conveniently engaged in all kinds of different levels, in all kinds of different dimensions, supplementing or filtering through all kinds of filters. I said filters already, didn't I? The crest of the wave of all this passion is headed towards that which is drawing the wave. It's easy to recognize, everybody's in love with Pilates and doing Pilates, but really what's drawing that? What's the attraction? And big money has a lot of thinking in it, and they're going to look for something beyond a structure of folklore, which they could care less about in terms of structuring and refining their profits. How is that going to happen? By them recognizing where the wave is cresting, as well as anybody else that can. Big money may not be able to go swim as close to the crest of the wave as you can individually. Because you have to take too many people along with them to get there. See what I'm saying? Superior knowledge won't be overwhelmed by franchising. Even though the more franchising or the more big money gets into it and has a say in starting to project what it is, there's this new definition, I can't wait. What is it? Why is it? Where does it come from? Does it make sense? What's it based on? Is there a presumption? What was a presumption of authority? In the major Pilates culture, there is a presumption of authority based on folklore without any presence of explanation. I'm trying to point to the wave and pointing to where it's cresting, and that, I think, is that it's headed toward whatever it is that makes Pilates what it is. Number 5. You want to be a better teacher? You want to be a better teacher? Understand it better. Understanding it better can't help but influence how you teach or the kind of teacher you are. Now, right underneath it became understand yourself better. Observe more, practice more, think more, pursue comprehension. Pursue comprehension. So, Flavia, that's what I have to tell you coming up, is pursue comprehension. Well, you can, because life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, add 2 and 2. Connect the dots before you add 2 and 2. And evaluate points of view. And then know how to make an offer. Right? Know how to make an offer. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And know how to accept payment. Which brings this discussion full circle. Adding 2 and 2. Direct your thinking. Geist.